Okay, the first sort of big change, I suppose, that we want to talk about when it's coming in, you'll all have heard about, is the statutory parental bereavement leave and pay. So sadly, bereavement's something that will affect all of us at some time, and everyone knows that it's a particularly distressing time when a parent loses a child. At the moment, there's no legal obligation for employers to provide paid time off for grieving parents. No paid time, that is. But under the Employment Rights Act 1996, employees do have a legal right to take reasonable time off to deal with emergencies, etc. So a death of a child would come under that, but as I said, it is unpaid and doesn't necessarily allow for any specific period of time either. Statistics do show that, well, for 2017 there were over 7,500 deaths of babies and children under 18 in the UK, so it's significant numbers. The statutory paternity bereavement leave pay was introduced really to try and give some help to parents and come to terms with probably the more practical impact of losing, or the practical and emotional. So we'll now just have a quick look at what the key aspects are of the legislation. So effectively, all employed parents will have a day one statutory right to leave. And that is a right to 2 weeks of leave if they lose a child under the age of 18 or they suffer a stillbirth from 24 weeks of pregnancy. Now that leave can be taken either as a single 2-week block or as 2 separate weeks. The entitlement must be taken within 56 weeks of the date of the child's death. So I suppose this is where it differs, although there's lots of similarities between this and other statutory payments. This is where the similarity ends, I guess, in that they've gone for this period that you can take your leave. And it's really because the death of a child is going to probably trigger, it's going to be unexpected events that trigger distress. Yeah. So during that, it might be their birth date, the anniversary of their birth date. It might be another child in the family's birthday. But I think the reason they're probably going for 56 weeks is to try and cover the anniversary of the death. So that basically takes it right out for the full year. So.
Could you, sorry, don't mean to interrupt,
That's
could
okay.
you go into a little bit more depth on the 56-week window and how this potentially can be tracked by payrollers?
Yeah, no problem. I think you'll find that most systems out there, well, especially systems that have got HR and payroll as a combined package, are going to have some sort of leave system where that can obviously be entered in the system and it can be tracked. Systems will have validation rules, etc., built in to make sure that it's within those timelines and there aren't more than 2 weeks. But I suppose one of the key things here is that for this particular kind of leave, employers will need to be probably a bit more flexible than others because it is a very sudden thing that's happening. But again, we'll come back onto that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So just to say, the entitlement to leave will be irrespective of length of service. And it also is in respect to the death of each child. So as sad as this may sound, and obviously it is, you could have a situation of a stillbirth where it is actually twins, for example, and that's obviously then going to be entitlement per child. There is separate conditions actually for pay, and they basically follow very similar conditions as existing statutory payments. The bereavement pay can start any day of the week and align with pay periods, again, as per other payments. So there is a qualifying condition for the leave, but that is all around the relationship with the child and the parent, or the relationship to the child. The entitlement is really to be focused more on whose responsibility is the primary carer and less on the legal status between the adult and the child. So the key relationships that will be eligible, obviously the child's parents. You've got adoptive parents, but there are differing rules there depending on when the adoption order, when the death of the child was in relation to the adoption order. Biological parents will only be eligible if there is a contact order allowing them to maintain contact after adoption. There's also something called the child's parent in fact, and this effectively covers other situations where a child is being looked after, and that is if a child has been living with someone in we'll say in a parental type capacity, but continuously for a period of 4 weeks, ending with the date of death. And that could be, I mean, typically it might be a grandparent, but it's not restricted to that. It could be any sort of person who's in a caring capacity at that time. There are exceptions. If one of the child's parents is living with that person, then that other person isn't eligible. And also there's stuff around remuneration if you're getting paid. Again, there's exceptions for that do allow eligibility for payment, and that's going to be around potentially foster parents, and if you are receiving money in relation to a will for looking after someone. So there are exceptions, and these are things you can look into.
And just to make sure, for a qualifying condition, this is only relating to parents who have a child under 18.
Yeah, parents
okay.
or the carer. Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So whether it extends beyond that, maybe in time, we don't know, but certainly at the moment that's the way. And the other one is the partner of any of the above, if they are living with the child in an enduring family relationship. In terms of the qualifying conditions for the payment, 26 weeks at the relevant week, average earnings greater than LAL, so following sort of similar to existing statutory payments. I think the next two we need to be careful with. Correct notice given to the employer and the employer declaration has been completed. I mean, obviously in this situation there needs to be a bit of empathy, consideration given. You shouldn't be asking for the death certificate. You probably don't need to be in the knowledge that grief is now, and it's suggested maybe that the declaration is something that you can get after they come back to work. It's not necessarily something that you go chasing for now. In terms of the payment, again, very similar to existing, it's paid, there'll be a flat weekly statutory rate, or at 90% of the average earnings if that's lower. So as I said, in line with other statutory payments. So, what record keeping and reporting? Probably fairly self-evident here. You need to keep evidence just like you would with any other statutory payments. The name of the employee, the child's date of death, and the written declaration that qualifying conditions are met. The payments are exactly as you'd expect just now. It's what you were doing for other payments. If you haven't made the payment, you want to say why and record reasons for that. And from a reporting perspective, where you've got new fields that are reported on the FPS for the year-to-date payment and for the EPS for the recovery and any compensation if that is valid. Payslip, it's not managed to put it on, but probably always recommend for transparency that it is, and there'll be a new field next year's P60. One thing there to mention, you can maybe see at the bottom, is the HMRC well, there will be detailed guidance available in gov.uk, should be during December 2019. That's more about the record keeping. So what can employers do in preparation? I think it was an interesting survey, a result of a survey that came out of the Child Bereavement UK, saying that less than a third of British adults who were working at the time of their bereavement said they had felt very supported by their employer. So more than 2/3 felt they weren't very supported. So maybe this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to take this and look at what your current policies are. What's your current compassionate leave policy? Does it match up with the statutory requirements, or does it exceed the requirements? What are you planning to do there? Another one here is probably about beliefs and customs across different religious groups, because they've all got different ways of dealing with bereavement, and it's something maybe just to keep an eye on. I mean, maybe no different between child and adult, but it's again something to look at. I would be saying review your procedures, an opportunity to review mental health and well-being, and that probably follows on from the bit about managing the employee's absence and the return to work. You need to make sure that your employees are well versed in how to deal with that, making sure that they monitor people when they come back to see that their mental health is good, or at least it's being monitored in such a way. As I said, I just want to just add one other thing there is about the evidence. There's no entitlement to view death certificates, so just thought it'd be worth adding that at the end.